Let's do it.
All right.
All right. Well, good deal. We are here today on the Legends of Be Wealthy with my friend, Jonathan Rankin. I say he's my friend. He is also Brett's dear friend, but I'm taking ownership of him for this next little time that we're together. So, Jonathan, not many people know too much about you, so I'm excited for them to learn more. However, before we start, I just want to run through a few housekeeping items. One is, if you guys have questions as we go, on behalf of Jonathan, I will say he's an open book. Raise your hand, ask a question, type them in Facebook down below, around wherever that box may be, because he'll be happy to answer them. If he's not, he has a safe word that he'll share with us and say skip, and we'll just go on to the next question. But all joking aside, one of the things that I have loved most about you is your unbelievable openness and candor. So everyone, if you have questions, chat box, raise your hand, ask them. With that, let's go ahead and dive right in. So this is one of my favorite calls to do each week. Brett handpicks members of our Be Wealthy Mastermind group and some of his private clients to share with us their successes, what's working great in their business, a little bit about their history, how they got to where they are to be truly some of the pillars of our group. And so, Brett, it is no surprise that Brett picked Jonathan Rankin as our next guest to share with us about his journey and what's working great in his business today. So with that, hi, Jonathan.
What's going on, Caitlin? How are you living?
I am doing great. I'm super excited for our time together. So would you mind sharing with everyone just a little, maybe 3-minute synopsis about you, your business, where you guys are located, all those goodies?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, my name's Jonathan Rankin. Market is St. Louis, Missouri. My business partner is Robert Hyder. We have been in business together, business partners since 2015. Both of us in the business since 08, 09. My past experience was I was an electrician for 14 years. I worked in Columbia, Missouri, South Florida, the Caribbean, and then St. Louis, Missouri. Did residential, industrial, and commercial work. At the time, I didn't really know it, but it was really important for what we do in real estate. Was I learned a lot about the process of how all the development and the projects go together, and who goes first and who goes second, and all that good stuff. So that's kind of the past before real estate. As I mentioned, been in since about 2008, 2009. We're in St. Louis, Missouri, and I would say our company's core properties, and no pun intended, our core business is wholesaling. And we'll, at the peak of the market, we were doing upwards of 400 wholesale deals in a year. It's obviously dropped with those transactions. And the market kind of pulled back a little bit. So that's a foundational business, is the wholesaling. We've also got a small brokerage. We fix and flip. We do some hard money lending, and we love the note creation that Brett's always talking about. So that's kind of what we're up to and where we've come from. And did I hit the 3 minutes?
That was good. You nailed it. Crushed it.
Go.
Question for you. How did you and Rob meet? What were you guys currently doing, and how did that partnership kind of come together? Because I think a lot of our members do have partners or considering partnerships. Yours is an incredible one. So tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good question. I get asked a lot. So the way I met Rob was actually randomly. We had quit our jobs the same month, same year, and went full time in real estate. And we both knew this other wholesaler named George. And I was always calling George, looking for deals, looking for another rehab. I found when I first quit, I would have these peaks and valleys where I'd have a lot of rehabs, and so I wouldn't be doing as much marketing. And then they get the rehab done, I'm like, oh crap, I gotta get some more deals. And so George filled that gap for me, bringing deals. And just so happened, Rob was some of the people that he was seeing the deals from. I bought one deal from him to rehab, and then just like everybody or most people, went back and looked like, oh, what did he pay for it? And how did that all go for them? And I was like, oh, that was a good whack. Like, they did good. He bought that well. I'm like, wow, what would that look like if he bought it like that and then I rehabbed it like this? And Right. So then that kind of was happening in the background. And then bought a second deal from Rob like 2 or 3 weeks later with George. But that time, I'm negotiating with Rob and I met him. And then maybe a week or so later, I bought another one and then George was gone. Then I was like, Rob, let me get this deal. Ironically, the third deal was the best deal, right? Because it was just, buyer to seller. But at the end of the day, just started talking with him over those deals. We went to lunch. We both wanted to own a lot of rentals and we talked about property management. So I just went to lunch with him one day and I said, hey, I don't want to do this necessarily for life. And I'm not really, this is what I'm passionate about, but what if I ran all the construction, all the property management and you ran sales and marketing? Like, what do you think that would look like? I think it would be 2 + 2 = 6. And now I think maybe late 14. And we talked a lot and hemmed and hawed and you get excited and then you pull back, because we were both really driven and you can make the argument didn't need the other, right? But at the same point, saw the different skill sets. So there's my background, and he was a commercial banker for the 14 years. I was an electrician, so very different skill sets, very similar goals and drive. So took about a year to get there, and we did a few deals just to kind of make sure, you could navigate the tough times and challenging situations, and then sign the paperwork, and we've been ripping and running ever since. I think it's going on 7 years, 7, 8 years now.
People ask this a lot in like marriages, but I think it's really interesting in business partnerships too. What's one of the or two of the key components that helps you stay equally yoked in partnership, that helps to keep that balance? If you were giving someone advice who is in a partnership or considering one, what's kind of the key for you two lovebirds?
Yeah, I would say probably the number one is just role definition and establishing lanes. There's overlap and we both drive fast. So, we swerve in and out of the lanes, but I do X and let me handle my lane and you do Y and you handle your lane. With different stages of growth and as we've grown, the lanes change and, that's a different challenge. Like now, what does it look like? And now what does it look like? But so that's the biggest thing. And then I would say a set time to communicate weekly where it's quiet and no one's around. You've got 2 hours to just hammer through the high level stuff. We've had COVID put a little bit of a damper on like the quality and the cadence of them, and we're back on track now. But we meet every Friday morning for 1.5 hours, 2 hours. Used to be 3 hours sometimes. You're just getting into all the stuff, that doesn't get talked about when you're driving fast, through the week.
Yeah, for sure. Does that meeting have a specific structure to it, or is it kind of organic since y'all have been together for so long?
It's been both. It's a little more organic right now, but it's definitely, we've had really strict structure, and then you come in and you're on a strict structure, but there's this thing that it should only be talking about one thing really right now,
right.
And nothing else matters. So we're a little more flexible with it now, but structure and agenda is important, so you're making sure you hit certain things, especially when you're doing really different things. Like he's working the commercial deal or the 44 unit, and I'm, working on the management company and the brokerage, or just different things. Is making sure that because we have different skill sets, you can bring those skill sets to the thing the other person's working on, but you got to know what they're up to. So, yeah.
Awesome. I love that. Let's jump a little bit into your businesses. So you guys really followed the model that we talk about a lot over at Be Wealthy. It's you come into the group and you really have a strong operating business. For you guys, that was your wholesale and fix and flip business, right?
Correct.
And in that, you already, because you guys were driving in this direction, the ultimate goal was you wanted to have all these rentals, you wanted to have a huge portfolio. And so you were kind of picking off the top on the wholesales, or kind of how did you guys originally have that structured that you were able to reach that end goal? How was the kind of mindset around that to drive from wholesale to actually building your rental portfolio?
Yeah, I think it's, I call wholesaling like today money, grocery money, like, hey, we do this thing, to pay the bills and, we get pretty good groceries, right? You make good money doing it, but But the goal is, to be the expert deal finder. If I can be an expert deal finder, I really at any point can do whatever I want with the assets and with the very best ones that come through. And the reality is I don't want to own near and everything that we wholesale, right? There's stuff that I'm like, nope, never want to own that. Nope, I don't know why they're doing that, but so I guess backing up, the wholesale company we always knew was the funnel for what we wanted to build. And also in whatever asset class we want to build it, depending on which direction you point it. Right now we're pointing at residential and smaller multi. You can point it at self-storage, or you can point it at industrial, the sales and marketing piece, or the larger multifamily. So having that foundation or that system of how to get the assets coming in to us was the most important. And then you can take another step and say, well, the goal is X amount of passive income or X amount of units. So, we need to cherry pick X amount off the top per year to add to the portfolio. And then like, what do you do with them? How do you service them? All of that stuff. But really for me and for us, it was, I always want to be the first one at the deal and then be able to decide what business I want to point to that makes the most sense at the time. An example would be right now. So the last 2 years, year and a half, 3 years, the white hot market. I mean, I had zero desire to fix and flip anything. I don't have to. You're making 60, 80, 100K rips and not raising a hammer. So
not really much risk.
Yeah. But now it's like, okay, well, I want to, now I'm doing a little more fix and flip because the retail market still has a demand for it, at least in our market, and there's less investor demand. So you just turn it that direction a little bit. So that answering your question?
Totally. It totally does. You guys have, the reason I ask is, well, I'll just tell you, because Brett well enough. He gets super mad when I talk about the deal hierarchy. So you've seen this a million times, but I'll show it to everybody else in the group. So Brett's philosophy, and it really aligns with both of yours. You and Rob do this perfectly. It's you want to be the first guy at the deal, and you're going to spend the marketing dollars on the assets that you want to actually acquire. If you guys can buy it and it's at a great price and you can structure the debt or cash the way that you want to do it, you're going to take it down. The whole purpose is for your wealth. Then if you cannot do it, we're going to now go through or you don't want that, you're going to go through and determine, okay, can I control it? Do I want to buy it and maybe just carry the paper on it? Yep. Do I want to wholesale it? And here's where I get in trouble, Jonathan. I always say about Brett's wholesale fees, I'm like, yeah, they made, $2.3 million last year on the junk Brett didn't want. And he gets because it just didn't fit in his buy box, but I get in trouble for calling it junk. He's like, those are really
junk. They're good deals.
Those are great properties. They just didn't fit in my buy box. In what you're talking about that you and Rob are doing, it makes so much sense. You're taking all of your marketing dollars and all of your marketing efforts and spending it on being the first guy to the deal to get the opportunity. And then once you get the opportunity, it's now, how do I want to disposition or keep this opportunity? And then the third part that you said was, how do I monetize it all along the way, which has to do with your brokerage. So your core business when you started was really wholesale and fix and flip. And then you guys have built all of these other operating businesses kind of alongside it that feed into that wealth track. So how did you determine it, like kind of in what chronological order? So first we're doing wholesale, fix and flip.
Yes.
And then how do you determine what to do next from there? I think a lot of people on our calls and in our group are like, holy cow, I could do private money lending. I could do seller financing. I want to do all the things. I want to do title. I want to do mortgage. I want to do insurance. I want to do them all. You guys are so capable. How did you determine what to do and how to line up those dominoes to make the most sense?
That's a good question. We, the most obvious for us, and this was before we really started talking about notes with Brett, the most obvious for us was hard money, because I'm selling deals to other people and they have, in a lot of cases, competitors of mine, was bringing their money. I'm like, I really like this, like at all. One, I want a loan, and two, they're making money off of me, and I don't like, I don't want to do that. So, so it was most obvious one for us was the hard money. I think looking back, you know, hindsight's always 2020. I wish I would have ran harder at notes faster. You know, that would have been, you know, and you could argue maybe, I don't know, they're 1 and 1A to me, those two. Creating notes and hard money are like the things, because you already have the marketing machine and the acquisition machine in place to go get the thing you need to create the note. It's not a shiny object or it's a different list and a different asset, but the same process with another, you know, mortgage function on the back. So I guess my point of that is, it's now you got to figure out a different thing. It doesn't distract you. Like we all have been distracted in this business and looked this way and looked that way and then didn't make any money. So it's not that. So I think those are the two. I wish I would have ran faster in notes as fast as I am now. And then hard money was the first for sure. I would say the one for us that, looking back, I wish I would have spent less time on was my brokerage, because we don't have a lot of agents, you know. I don't pay the title company a lot of money for our transactions, you know. I negotiate really low and they probably break even or close to with what, you know, we pay them. So I couldn't make the title work, which was always the goal with the brokerage. Yet, you know, I mean, it's there. I believe in the model, and you know, I think in trying to build the wholesale and hard money and the notes, I was still looking to build the brokerage at the same time, and it's just not the right timing. So I wish I would have spent less time on that looking back in that window of time.
You know what I kind of take from that I just learned from you, I'm taking notes. You first chose the things that worked the best for you, or you wish you had spent more time on. You already had the customer for, and you already had kind of the process for. There wasn't and it was an easy pivot, meaning it was a direct line. There weren't really that many other humans involved. It was just another service provided amongst the same timeline of product. And referring that out wouldn't have done anything for you monetarily, right? Like just, oh, I'll send you to another private lender. There's not much you can get there. Maybe a little marketing,
grab a point or so. Yeah.
Marketing help. But you've tacked on from a disposition strategy the note. So it was the product you already had, which was the wholesale, the actual property. Then you sell it and you have a long-term note. So one action gave you a ton of results. Private lending, same thing. You already had the customer, so it's just one additional way to monetize what you already were doing. Correct. I think the hard part with brokerage and why people typically wait to do that a little bit later is that it's actually a lot more humans, which, while we love people, it's a lot more noise.
Yes.
But also it's something you can monetize in advance, or without launching a whole brokerage. You can send it and potentially do referrals or different pieces there within the guidelines of your states.
Sure.
But I get why that was the tougher one. I think that makes sense. So that was a big learning lesson for me. Thank you.
Yeah.
Because I think we often go like, I want to do all of it, especially when you sit in Brett's room. It's like, dang, I want to launch an insurance company, a mortgage company. I want to launch them all. And I want to launch them in every city. And it's like, well, there's a better way to do that. So thank you. So tell us a little bit about, you guys have explored, so St. Louis is interesting from an investment standpoint because it's an older city. And there's a lot of historical regulation and different zoning things and all kinds of complicated issues that come up. How does that play into your business?
It makes it harder for outside competitors to come in, which is nice, right? You know,
it's a moat for you, a barrier of entry.
We've had a lot of folks like, hey, we're coming. And we're like, come on, go ahead. It's like, you'll get it, and it's awesome. But you know, there's St. Louis City, St. Louis County, St. Charles County, and Jefferson counties. I would say the 4 main counties. In St. Louis County, there's 93 municipalities, all with a different mayor, all with different rules and inspection regulations. And so you know, it's to really know where you're at, know where some allow rentals, some don't allow rentals. So it's, but I would say, you know, it's still a market where you can own a home for less than you can rent, right? So there's still, it's very affordable. And our median home price is, I think, up to 250 finally after, 12 years of me being in the business. So, you can make almost all the homes work for rent. There's a few high-end neighborhoods. It's a lot of old money here. So a lot of private. It's a good market. It's just, it's you don't see as much appreciation except for the last handful of years, which we've enjoyed. It's like decades of catch up for us. But what Brett gets all the time, out there in Phoenix.
Well, that comes as a roller coaster, right?
But,
Investing for cash flow is a much better long-term approach than investing for equity alone.
Yeah. So I call it low boom, low bust market, right? We don't get the big pop, but we don't go down, and everything usually still works on a cash flow model. So
yeah, well, you can always losing your equity is scary, right? You wake up in the morning, you're like, I lost $100,000. Losing equity is tough. It's very difficult to lose cash flow.
Yeah.
So I actually like that model a lot.
Good.
It is hard to not get jealous of, your Phoenix guys or some of the DFW stuff where you're like, holy Florida, you're like, you made $100,000 overnight.
Yeah. Like, 2 years ago, that was, half of that price. Wow. But it's cool. It's just the differences,
Yeah.
Pros and cons of all markets.
If you were looking to evaluate different markets, I know you and Rob are always looking at different opportunities. What markets would you guys be considering and why?
So we're in Kansas City. I like Kansas City.
What do you like about Kansas City compared to St. Louis?
Population growth, job growth.
Versus St. Louis has retraction. You have
neither of those my whole life. Maybe my whole daughter's life. It's just people have been living here since I was born. Now the stats are skewed because that goes back to the counties and things like that. But non-union towns, I like. I'm not against the unions necessarily, but it's more expensive and harder to do construction projects. So I like that about Kansas City. Strong rents, newer housing stock for the most part. There's some pockets around the city that are older, but a lot of it's 1940, 1950 or newer. Yeah.
I'm sorry, for us from Phoenix, 1940 and newer, and you saying it's basically, this is good, this is newer construction is hilarious.
Yeah, it has to be. I know, I get it. I'm like, yep, I'll take it. I don't just get me out of the 30s, get me out of the limestone foundation and knob and tube wiring, and happy.
So you expanded to Kansas City, and when you guys went into Kansas City, did you go in with the same model? What did that look like?
Well, a learning experience. No, I didn't go on the same model. I tried to do it a little bit differently than I do it here. I didn't have a strong leader out of the gate up there. I took the guy who raised his hand in St. Louis and said he wanted to go, and then sent him because he was willing to go. He was a pretty good salesperson. So that was a fail there. It's just not having a stronger leader, someone just willing to kill what they eat, and go make it happen. Not having the marketing tight enough out of the gate, getting leads in places and spending money in places where I didn't have as many buyers as needed. It was kind of a slap in the face, back to the basics, like build your buyers list a little bit stronger before you go into another market. Don't take the approach of if you find the deal, you'll find the buyer. That is true, right? But not at scale. So I would say a few things that I did differently, like how we do it now is, there's one person and it's the same huddles and it's the same pipeline management. It's just everything's the same, it's just virtual. So yeah, where a lot of how we do it now is how we would have done, and it's just a stronger person, someone that's willing to run through walls and do the thing that they need to do to win, rather than him and haw,
Sure. So your advice for someone who's considering another market, because I think that sometimes we're in expensive markets, and so we tend to look at other markets or markets with barriers to entry that are difficult. So we look at other markets and say, oh, this sounds great. That's a city I like to go to. But you're sharing with us, yes, the city and the demographics are important, but the jockey was a make or break for you.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'd go, I've heard Brett say this as I'm about to say it. I think I'd go a lot of places with the jockey. I think the place, you know, a certain amount of people need to live there, you know, and certain has to be side, you know, but like, I think it's definitely the person. It's definitely the jockey, 100%.
Got it. One of the things that, you know, we've talked about, so you have your fix and flip and wholesale business. You launched hard money lending alongside it. You look to monetize through the brokerage firm, and then you're taking the deal flow and cash flow from those operating businesses and generating wealth with them through whether it be hard money lending or notes or rentals. When you're looking at how to really spearhead what asset class you're going after again, like you mentioned, you guys looking at residential and small multifamily. How do you determine that's what you guys want? Is it what you're good at, your bailiwick? You can understand the construction, Rob can understand the back end demographics and debt structure, or is there something specific there? Because a lot of us get distracted with storage units and shopping centers and large multifamily. How do you figure out what you and Rob want to go after?
Yeah. That's a stage of growth question, right? Depending on what stage you're at, and we've had several. I would say today, how we determine that is we know that we'll fix and flip 1 to 4, and then multis up to probably 12. Do the value add, and that'll be the today money, right? Because we know, just know that box. That's just the today money, the grocery money, and then we also know we don't really want to spend a lot of time on multifamilies. I mean, ideally less than 40 units, but like, depending on spots, we look at all the way down to 24. And that decision is based on, you know, the goal of how many units we want to add this year and the amount of passive cash flow we want to create in a time frame. And the multis are look to be one of the quickest ways to get there with our skill sets. That said, we do like industrial buildings. We own a couple. We own a couple office buildings. So there's also what do the bankers send you, and what do the other bird dogs bring you that we can make a lot of sense of different types. But we determined those are our two focuses in terms of main things, because the one helps us hit the goal, the larger multis of the passive, and the other is just we opened up to the smaller multis for the flip side, just because that's where we see a lot of demand.
Very cool. Very cool. You guys, I have a little sneak peek into the back end of your business over the last couple of years. You guys also give back in a really strategic way with the meetup group. So tell us a little bit about kind of what that looks like. I love that it's a give back in a strategic way that also can help to build the business. So tell us what you guys have done there, and what that looks like.
Yeah, no, we're pretty proud of it. It's been a work in progress for years, and you helped my assistant Elena, you know, a lot over the years.
Awesome.
Yeah, she's a baller. So started it around the conference room, you know, at the office, and the goal was always to, you know, help others, give back to other people. How people would help me. I, you know, got in the business and went to this RIA or that RIA and met folks, and you know, just they helped me get going, right? So that was always the goal, was to give back. And I'm not ignorant to the fact that I knew I would get business, right, and customers and deals and buyers. So it started with about, you know, 8 people around the conference room. Now we have it every month in a high rise. We have a speaker that comes in every month, someone in our office, or we'll bring somebody else in. Atlanta quarterbacks it. We get 100 to 140 attendees or so a month now, not counting team members. We just recently got the 3rd largest one in St. Louis to merge into ours, which was cool. Yeah, to get some more asses and seats. And then with that, you know, we've got sponsors that cover the costs. We finally got to net even, so it doesn't cost us anything to have 140 people come and hear from us and hear from our vendors and have our team mingle with them, and get borrowers and sellers and buyers and affiliate marketing opportunities and things like that. So so yeah, it's been cool. It's definitely been her baby, and she's driven it very well with some guidance, and it's a big deal. You know, it's also just your exposure in your market. You know, people see you, and you know, there's you know, content they can get that we're not charging anything for yet, you know, to kind of help better their lives. So
I think it's so cool what you've done, and she's done an incredible job building it. But you, by starting with just 8, and now you have 140-ish people coming that are people you can add to your cash buyer list, potential people you can recruit to your business, people who can bring you deals, people who will borrow your money,
lenders lend money, yeah.
Lenders who are going to lend you money. You have your affiliate partners being more and more involved, which help you to monetize different areas, plus help things run a little more smoothly sometimes when you have a little more sway of need help on things.
Yeah.
The ways that this all folds together and the ways that it helps you, but also helps everyone else in the community is absolutely one of the best strategic gives. And you're right, eventually you guys absolutely should monetize it at a higher level. But the amount of money that you probably can't track it, but the amount of money that you've probably generated from it and opportunity is incredible. So anyone who's thinking about that in their market, what advice would you give them?
Slow down before you go fast.
Okay.
You know, come up with a plan, understand there is cost, you know, in the beginning, understand that if you slow down to go fast, you can get all that cost covered up front. I just ran and footed the bill for a year or so, or portions of it, and now, you know, we aren't, but I could have got there faster if I just slowed down a little bit. Yeah, I mean, just map it out. It's not rocket science, you know, have a cool central location, copy the competitors' content, what they're teaching. It's not new shit. It's all the same stuff, you know, like talk about Burr and talk about all the stuff that everyone wants to do. And be consistent. Be really
That's
consistent.
awesome. I am going to brag on you. They are now doing this in like a high rise with like an incredible view. They have catered food that comes in. They have open bar situations. You guys have created a really, really cool place that now has this snowball effect. That's awesome. But you're right. It started with 8 people around a conference room table with a controlled cost. And then if you, between those two, do it in a really strategic way, it doesn't have to cost you anything. So
Yep.
I love it. Can I ask you some rapid fire questions?
Go, shoot.
Cool. Okay. How has a failure or a parent failure set you up for later success? Do you have like a favorite failure?
Yeah. So, I mean, there's opportunities to learn. Don't feel like it in the moment, but you know, that's how they set me up for success. Favorite failure. I would say there's a couple of them. Doing the high-end rehabs. We failed on a couple of those, which was awesome because it got us out of them and got us to deals that we can do more, less risk, and have multiple exits. A lot of fun, but you know, you made a lot of money, but you learned some good lessons. And I would say the other most recent one was scaling into a shifting market. That was a painful one. So I think what I would learn from that is don't always build your goals for next year off what happened last year. There's a lot of other factors that I would take into consideration. And even though I have a path, pumping the brakes when I feel and see other things that I don't think are aligned with that path. So probably 2. That's the most recent one. And then I was just thinking, I'm glad I don't rehab high-end homes anymore, and that was a failure.
Was a rehab for the higher end homes, was that just a budget and risk situation, or was there something above and beyond that we could learn?
Opportunity cost. You know, you're in a deal, you had a lot of money in a deal, it doesn't turn out the way it did a long time later, you thought it would, and you're just like, I could have 10 of these for the same amount of money, and I can know faster and have different exits. So it was really just when you swing for a home run, it's nice when you hit the ball, but it hurts when you miss, you know. So just wanted to go with the stand-up double model rather than the swing for the home runs.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. It's kind of hard though, because sometimes not that this happened to you, but sometimes our egos get involved where we're like, oh, this would be such a beautiful project. I would love to do this versus just
Keep it boring.
exactly. Exactly.
Boring
Exactly.
is comfortable. Yeah.
And then in the shifting market, I wanted to ask you, so you definitely, a lot of us had to right size our businesses. And I think it's challenging because things were going so well for so long that we project out and make, just like you said, plan 1 year, 3 or 5 years out and just assume the same trajectory. But this has been some of the hardest times that real estate has faced over the past 6 months with interest rate changes.
Yeah.
When the market shifts, how should someone pivot out of looking at that 1 year plan? Like, what advice would you give them? Would you say, look, like 30 days out or 90 days out, or how did you and Rob say, wait a minute, we got to reset. What's the plan? How did that reset happen?
Well, I will be, if I'm being honest, I would say that it was slower than it should have been. You know, there was some like, it can't really be this little amount of transactions, really, you know, like in our execution. I would say for me, it was probably when all the funds started pausing. I went and ran the numbers and said, okay, we did this many deals and all these people are gone, these 10. And it was 47%. That was just like, we're gone, we're done, we're out of what we had done.
Hedge funds you were dispositioning to?
Yeah. So 47% of the transactions we had done the previous year were to these like 11 or 12 folks, and the rest were local that we'd always sold to. So I looked at it and I was like, wow, we lost 47%. And instead of like immediately right sizing to that percentage, I right sized a portion and then focused really hard on finding more buyers to like cover the gap in the percentage. Instead of trusting my gut and saying, no, that's just really gone. We have to get down to this number that's just really left and then go add buyers to grow from there. So it was just, it was a costly mistake. That said, you know, we're right sized and you know, it's a real number now. We read the Wall Street fourth quarter last year, 47% investor transactions down. So unfortunately nailed that number early on. I just didn't quite trust my gut that it was like really half were gone. You know, I was like, really half are gone. I'll make up for 25% and I'll right size 25%. I wouldn't do that again.
Great lesson. Absolutely great lesson. So when you're looking now at your cash buyer list, or maybe it's somebody who's a little bit newer in the business and maybe they've got 2 or 3 people on their cash buyer list who are buying the majority of their stuff. How would you, and you want to keep feeding those mouths, right? They're hungry. You want to keep giving it to those people. How do you though protect yourself, or what would you recommend someone does to make sure they aren't in that same position?
You've got to continuously do the basics, which is can always be building your buyers list. You just have to. I mean, it goes all the way back to entering the market. You know, what's the one thing that I should have done better? Build the buyer list more. It's the thing that should never stop because there's always new buyers coming in. The new buyers generally pay the most, right? And the seasoned folks, even selling to forever, usually beat you down over time. You know, so new buyers, keep them sharp and paying market rates, and also every buyer pauses. Always at some point. It doesn't matter what size they are. They have capacity or they have vacations or whatever it is. So you have to always be building the buyers list.
I think it's hard though. Like if I'm being totally honest, if someone's it's super easy, you know, your hand to their mouth, you can get really lazy in that and comfortable in that. And even if your margins go down a little bit, it's like, but I don't have to work that hard for it. I think it's a really big discipline to say, no, I'm not going to do that. I have to continue to build and I have to start feeding other mouths.
It's even harder when the easy ones pay the most. In the last few years, you know, they were the easiest and they pay the most. So it was.
Yeah, for sure. What is an unusual habit or absurd thing that you love?
Guns and off-road vehicles. That's a hard one. I don't know. Like, well, the first thing that came to mind was my side by side. It's like a Batmobile. You ever seen Bauer's car? It's like Bauer's car, but not as cool. And to collect guns, I like buying guns. They're like a nice savings account. I don't know.
That's easily the best response I've ever gotten to that question.
Yeah.
Caleb, guns and off-road vehicles. Next question, please.
Yep. That's the thing.
That's awesome. That's absolutely awesome. All right. What is a bad recommendation, or what are some of the bad recommendations that you've heard, maybe at some of these other RIAs or meetup groups, or that you've heard online where you're like, oh my God, I cannot believe they're telling investors to do this? What's like a real bad piece of advice that people should be aware of that's out there?
Yeah, this was a tough one. There's so much. I think the one that scares me the most when I always hear it is the ones where folks are teaching like creative or flipping subject twos too early, before they realize what is happening, or flipping these options, right? It's like, it's good, you make money. But I think there's a lot of room for error, in that, a lot of room to get in a bad spot. And if you talk about subject two, one, you're taking off someone's loan, so there's already risk there. It's fine. I love subject two. We do it. They're great deals. I don't flip them to someone else though, and like say, hope you do what I said we were going to do.
Yeah. The double wrap action.
Now I'll wrap it because I'm in control still. Like, I'll take it and say, okay, I'll create a note with this person because they have to pay me, and if they don't pay me, okay, I'm still going to pay this person. So I'll play that middle as long as I'm in control. The one I don't like is where they just flip the deal for $7,000, and now it's your subject to deal, and you pay the seller this much. So I think I saw people teaching that even locally. Some folks got into trouble, and the creative stuff is good. I love creative, but I just think you don't really understand what you're doing in the beginning. You could get in a bad spot. You could even get a savvy seller that pulls the wool over your eyes, right, in the creative front. So that's that.
I can understand that. Whenever you feel overwhelmed or unfocused, or you've even lost focus like temporarily, what do? What do you ask yourself specific questions? How do you reset? How do you realign for the mission?
So I'm very compartmentalized. I can take a lot of different situations and have one not bother me on the other. So overwhelmed is not something that happens often. So it's tough for me. I think when I'm there and it's like, do I go left, do I go right, what's going on, is I just call it throwing out my brain on the whiteboard, and I just got a 6x4, and what's absolutely everything that I'm doing everywhere right now, and am I doing it in the right priority? And I'll throw every single thing there, and then I'll put everything to do underneath each thing, even though it's in Asana and my notes and all that other stuff. Just gives me like visual clarity. But I don't do that often. Things are pretty much in their buckets where I don't know, overwhelmed is not generally a feeling that I have to work. So I'm fortunate. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think that probably has to do with some of your disciplines. So tell us a little bit about like a day in the life. What does a day in the life look like for you? I think people can learn.
Yeah. Up at 4:35, a little bit of workout, a little bit of meditation, a little bit of quiet time, get my daughter up, take her to school, walk in. How old's your daughter? She's 4. Yeah, take her to preschool. What's that?
That's a fun age.
Man, it's the best. It's talk about investments. One of these questions. Investing time with her is definitely super rewarding. But take her to school, listen to music on the way, walk in, park as far away. I learned this from a guy at Brett's mastermind last time. We park as far away from the door as possible, so we have longer to walk together every morning. So that's fun.
I love
and
that.
Then leave there, come here. I hit the huddle with my sales manager, team leader, and all the sales guys. I walk in and hear what they did yesterday, what they did the day before, look at all their metrics as they're reporting them. Just kind of am there to see what's going on. Can I catch something, that maybe someone's missing, or, just gentle accountability, from leadership. From there, kind of interesting you asked this, because in a week and a half, I'm reworking my whole schedule. So I'll tell you what it's gonna be. So it used to be from there, I do all the one-on-ones, with all the salespeople, go over kind of what they're doing, how can I help them in their life, what are their goals? By the way, is your pipeline tight? Did you follow this person? Going forward, I'll leave the huddle. I just want to go hang with the team, be there, float, support them, ask questions, teach, train, have that 45 minutes to an hour and a half afterwards to just be with them. We're all here in the morning. We all come out of the huddle. They all go prospect or do analysis, and they all have questions then. And I found going right into the one-on-ones after segregated me from that time where they're all working together. So I'll go do that. We'll start one-on-ones right before lunch, have them right after lunch, and then I'm blocking everything after 3 for higher level finance meeting or to-dos, working on the business rather than in the business. And I try to get out of here at 5:30 or so. Again, go hang out with my daughter. She's got soccer across the street on Monday. So, I walk across the street and do soccer with her. Sometimes I come back to the office, maybe a night or 2 a week, 7 minutes down the road. So I leave everything here, take nothing home. And there's times where I'll come back after she goes to bed, just because I can watch the game and have all my monitors and everything right here. And
Sure.
I get a lot done in that 3 to 4 hour chunk, maybe one night a week. So it's a day in the life.
That's awesome. But one of the things that I really liked that you shared was the amount of discipline that existed, not just in your leadership in the office. So being there and having that structure in the office is one thing, but the discipline, you talked about your home life or your time with your daughter with those same degrees of discipline. I wake up, I take care of myself, I spend time with her, we park in this exact space, we have this structure. And I think that's probably, I'm guessing, but I think that's probably a contributing factor to why you don't feel overwhelmed or unfocused, is because you have those structures personally and professionally.
Yep, it's a discipline. Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. You mentioned investing with her, time with her was one of your favorite investments. What are some of your other favorite investments?
So let's see, that was the private coaching, Brett. I mean, just changed the game, changed the world, changed, definitely up there, best investments. Personal coaching, I did emotional intelligence coaching with someone locally, EQ, I 2.0 or whatever it was called. Game changer, in terms of I lacked empathy, shocker, for drivers. And, I did. And so building that skill and that muscle and realizing the impact you can have on your team,
Sure.
finding different ways to communicate. So that was a great investment. And then, just the time with my daughter. It's the best. Best. Yeah. She's got Brett beat.
What was that?
She's got Brett beat.
Well, she's probably a lot cuter.
Okay.
Sweeter.
Sweeter.
Much as I love Brett.
Oh,
I have a feeling your daughter has been beat in a lot of ways. What purchase of $100 or less has positively impacted your life recently? Around $100. With inflation, we can go to 120.
Yeah, this is, I don't know, randomly it's hard because my wife always gives me trouble. I don't buy little things. I don't buy a lot of little things. I wait and then buy a side-by-side or
a gun.
Machine gun. Yeah. So
Ammo's your favorite.
It actually it goes back to my daughter, was one of the coolest ones recently. Was we bought $11 basketball tickets to the Billikens, and we were going to the Billikens basketball games for $11. I'm like, it's cost $0. You're up and down for $50 with popcorn and everything else. I'm like, and some of the best times ever, baseball's that cheap, but Billikens basketball, I mean, I was like, this is awesome. I mean, you get season tickets for $500 for the season or something like that. So, so that was the answer on that one.
Very cool. Last question in my rapid fire. So if anyone has other questions, feel free to unmute yourself or put them in the chat box. What is the book or books you recommend most?
Yeah. So The Hard Thing About Hard Things, Ben Horowitz. Really good book to read in Shifty Market, right? And then Ride of a Lifetime, Bob Iger, the Disney guy.
And then they brought him back, and I was like, yes.
I know, that was crazy. I like read it, and then it happened. I'm like, whew, wow, okay, you just can't get away. But yeah, that's an awesome book. Yeah.
It is an incredible book. The Teddy Roosevelt Man in the Arena quote that we talk about a lot in the mastermind group. In that specific book, Bob's about to go into a board meeting and he's applying. It's his final, I think it was his final interview for the CEO position. And he was not nervous about it, but he describes that there was a lot going on. Yep. And he looked outside the room and saw that quote and decided he was just going to go for it. Go all in. And I was like, he saw, but it didn't say what the quote was. It just said that it was the man in the arena. So then I was like, what? So I had to go look up what the man in the arena was. And then I went on this huge Teddy Roosevelt dive of just reading every biography about him. But I loved that book as well. So if anyone hasn't read The Ride of a Lifetime, grab that. The Hard Thing About Hard Things is incredible as well. Horowitz is a genius. So with that, was there anything we should have asked you that we haven't? One more random thing we should know about you, and then we'll wrap it up.
Random. No, I mean, I think the one thing you said on the billboard, Elena.
Oh, yeah.
I asked Elena, I was like, what do you think about this? And she goes, we buy houses. So she put.
What a well-trained human.
Like, man,
that was the best answer.
What the answer would be is like, can I say ugly? So, home investors won't send me a love letter, that's trademarked. Like,
a cease and desist.
Yeah. But discipline is freedom. I mean, and what is the thing that I think, quirky or whatever it is, it's all about discipline. I learned that in a bold class, early on, Keller Williams, and couldn't be more true. I mean, you do whatever you want, accomplish whatever you need, gotta be disciplined, So discipline is freedom is the thing. Well,
and it's the domino, right? It's which one you put in front of the other. Be disciplined to gain the freedom. I think we get it so wrong and say, I'm going to have freedom so I don't have to worry about the discipline. It's like,
yeah, it's like another favorite quote I heard back in the days, people get into real estate because they want a flexible business and a flexible schedule, and then they flex right out of the business. I think one of the reasons I was successful early on is I was used to waking up at 7 a.m. as an electrician or being at work at 7 a.m. So when I started in real estate, I was at work at 7 a.m. and rose into 10, so like, I'm killing you.
Right.
3 more hours every day. Like, I'm coming for you if I'm not there already, it's like the Kobe model. But
it's totally true. I'll finish on this last story about Brett because I love to talk about him when he's not here, because then I can tell any story about him that I want to without repercussion. He told me this story this one time. He got into real estate and they were like, hey, what you need to do to be most successful, it sucks, but you need to get on this dialer for 3 hours and call people. And he was like, all I have to do is sit in this air-conditioned office in this comfortable chair with this headset and call people for 3 hours and talk to them on the phone. Well, his background is he's a pig farmer. So he's like, there's no shit to shovel. Like, I don't have to shovel shit. I don't have to be outside at 4 a.m. doing this. I don't have to deal with the pigs. I sit here air conditioned and talk to homeowners to see if they want to sell their home. And he was like, this is the greatest of all time. I think if we switch the mindset around from it's all about the freedom and really look at the disciplines, are comfortable disciplines, and let's embrace them and move forward. So with that, Jonathan, I cannot thank you enough for sharing with us your journey, your story, and all of the nuggets that you shared. Everyone, this will be uploaded. I'll share real quickly my screen just to show where we're going to have all of this uploaded so everyone can access all of the tools they need. 1 second. I should have had this up and running. I apologize. In our Scale to Wealth portal, you can see here, this will be uploaded along with the rest of our Legends of Be Wealthy calls here at Legends of Be Wealthy. It will be under the investment and wholesale area. Also, if you have any other questions or have deals you'd like to submit for one of the upcoming calls, you can go to Live Daily Calls, see the schedule, join us live through this link, submit your deal for the upcoming calls. Anything you need, we're here for you. If you are not yet a member of our Be Wealthy, you can use this QR code to book a call with us so that we can go ahead and help you with anything that you need. With that, Mr. Rankin, thank you again. I couldn't be more grateful, as I know most of our members are, and we look forward to seeing you again soon.
Yes, ma'am. My pleasure. Good to see
All
you
right.
as always. See ya.
Bye, guys. Thanks.